You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
And away we go for the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. It is Nick Alberga and Carter Hutton ahead of one of the biggest games of the season again as the Leafs host the Florida Panthers. What's up, Huts?
Hey, not much, buddy. Just getting hit with a snowstorm here. So this is where I'm at. I'm checking the radar. We're supposed to get 30 centimeters. Contemplating why I live here and I don't live in Nashville today, my man.
I actually told somebody recently that you lived in Thunder Bay, and they're like, why in the world does this guy live in Thunder Bay? And I said, I have no clue. Can you answer that for me?
I love it here, buddy. I got all my friends, all my family. It's a good place to be. This time of year is tricky, though. It's like just in between, right? Snow coming, going. I love skiing, so it's been good. But that being said, man, I hope it misses us because I hate this time of year. Just let's get the summer already.
Well, trust me, it's the same shit here, and it happened a couple weeks back where you get that tease of spring. People are horned up. It's like a Tuesday afternoon. They're on a patio just hammering beers for inexplicable reasons. I think it's more about their alcohol issues than it is the sun coming out. But then I go out yesterday, and I live in a wind tunnel here in Liberty Village, and I'm like, man, it is so cold. You know when it's cold and you start to tear up a bit? That was the case yesterday, and I'm like, it felt like summer was so close, and it's like a stern reminder that, no, it's nowhere close to being here.
I know it humbles you quickly, but because I do love like when the sun comes out because it's playoff hockey time too, right? I feel like you start to get that energy, you start to feel it. Now every game, we got 8 games left. It's exciting times, and I guess maybe being on the other side of it now, my career in media, which is, I know you guys are busting me before I came on how I work a few hours a day and I call myself that I have a career, but
True.
I love it though, right? Because it's been a long season of grinding, and now you're like reaping the rewards of important hockey and meaningful games, and there's nothing better than this NHL hockey come playoff time.
It is just 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I've seen Huts everywhere just today. I saw him on Morning Cup of Hockey. I've heard him on NHL Network Radio earlier today. Man, you're everywhere, dude.
That's it, eh? Just spreading the wealth. Honestly, Nick, just trying to work on my brand. I'm just trying to get better and I don't even know if I want to. I don't know. Just talk hockey, have fun, joke around. I don't know. I'm just trying to get better at this. So maybe one day I can get a real job once my kids move out, so I'm not bored at home all day.
Hey, just never forget who found you, okay? Never Thanks, forget man. Who was the first person to be like, you know what, Huts, going to give you a shot. You played in the league. You played for Buffalo. You deserve this shot. And I deserve it. You grabbed the baton and you ran with it. So great job, buddy. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. I love this time of year, man. Scoreboard watching. I watched the majority of the Montreal, Florida game last night. Just insanity where the Habs score with 8.4 seconds remaining. It always hits differently when the captain leads the team. I want to see that tonight, by the way, from the Maple Leafs. But Nick Suzuki, out of this world last night. Lane Hutson, out of this world. And Montreal steals one against the Florida Panthers.
Insane, right? Like, what a finish. That, like, talk about a game you want to be at, and talk about the games that, like, have gone on in the Bell Center this year, getting to host the Four Nations and what's going on, this run by Montreal and these young kids, Lane Hudson's success. It's been an unbelievable year. And in the fashion that they tied that game, Hudson just throwing a puck to the net, and it's just gets a weird bounce in front, ends up on Nick's stick. Suzuki finishes it, ties it. Then for him to go on and get the winning goal in overtime, unbelievable. That atmosphere in there, I couldn't imagine what it was like flooding out into the streets, into the Bell Center. It must have been absolutely buzzing last night. So much fun. And for these young guys, there's probably nowhere they can go in the city. They're kings right now.
I'm on the record in saying that that's the #1 building in the NHL to watch a hockey game, whether it's preseason, playoffs, or regular season for that matter. And that was just a monster win. Imagine Montreal helping out the Toronto Maple Leafs, but that's kind of sort of what happened last night. So the Leafs 2 points up on the Panthers, but then you look in the rear view and here come the red hot Tampa Bay Lightning, who just don't lose. Pretty lucky in the schedule too. You get the back-to-back against the New York Islanders, who are dog shit, but they win 4-1 last night.
Yeah, a big win there last night. And again, this is a dangerous team, right? I think those additions they've added at the deadline, Gord's fitting in very well. And again, just adding a little bit of depth, because when you looked at this team, Nick, they're bottom 6 was shit. Like, they still have guys that are core 4 that are awesome, but I think that has been a big factor. And again, it's the reemergence of Vasilevsky too. He's played so well. He's healthy. And you look at a little bit of a hangover from those runs, those Stanley Cup runs and playing hockey late into the season. Then that back surgery last year. Now they become a very dangerous team. And that being said, it's been a fun hunt here. I thought Tampa Bay was going to be that team that was going to sit third. It felt that way about halfway through the season that's where they were, but it's been a crazy run. And I think it's an exciting time here. And again, what a perfect time for a great matchup in the Atlantic Division tonight with the Leafs.
Well, that's exactly it. And look, I've dogged Jonas Johansson quite a bit in the past. I think he's been a great story in the second half. Actually, he's been good, man. He was good the other day against the New York Islanders in that victory at home. And I think he has spelled Andrei Vasilevsky just enough this season. But Tampa has been a remarkable story. So is Nikita Kucherov, has 13 points in the last 5 games. Since we're on the topic, who's your Hart Trophy winner right now?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I still want to go with Draisaitl because I just think his scoring hasn't stopped. Yes, you can view he missed a little bit of time and Kucherov really took off in points. But on a year where Connor McDavid's had a bit of a down year, I guess for his standards, I'm going to go with Leon Draisaitl because he's been insane. And again, there's still some time to play here. So there's an argument you can make for Hellebuck. There's an argument you can make for Kucherov, for McKinnon. But I think it's Draisaitl's award to win, especially how far his goal scoring is above the next guy.
I'm inclined to go with Connor Hellebuck just because of the type of season he's having, and there's no one even in the same stadium as the guy, even with those torpedo bats, dude. Like, he'll throw a no-no against a torpedo bat. That's how good he has been, and the importance to his team as well. And I just think the rarity of a goalie winning the Hart Trophy, it's been 10 years. Prior to that, it was about 10 years with Jose Theodore. I just think it's time, and he's been that good. And that's taking nothing away from Leon Draisaitl. Again, there's 3, 4, 5 guys who are worthy of this award. Even Kucherov, not that he gets snubbed every year, but it's more like, he's done it before and he's like overlooked, where it's like he is on an impeccable run. You take Kucherov off that Lightning team. I know they have other guys, but I don't know if they're anywhere close to where they're at right now in the standings too.
No, I agree. And I think even you can look at Stamkos, right? Like how his season has gone now without Kucherov, right? There's a big difference there, right? A guy getting fed by playing with Tommy Novak versus playing with, Kucherov.
Whoa, man.
It's a big difference, right? He's a guy that makes everybody better on the ice. The Hellebuck one for me, I guess maybe as it plays out down the stretch here, obviously they lost last night, which I don't think is a huge deal. But that being said, it's been, and again, you can make the same argument with Calder, the Calder Trophy this year, right? There's so many guys. I think Lane Hudson is the guy now, like the way this Montreal run has gone. If he gets him in the playoff, what he's doing is insane. But there's just a handful of guys right now for both those awards that are very worthy of it this year.
Something special for sure. And watching last night's action was awesome. Not to mention seeing yesterday John Tavares, and rightfully so, the second star of March for the entire NHL, man. 13 goals in 15 games for John Tavares. And I could tell you the Four Nations break did him well for sure.
Yeah, it's important too. I think we've talked a lot about the Four Nations bump, right? Like you see a lot of guys that go there and play well and, have that confidence. I think you look at Binnington, that's been good. I think Sam Montembeault came out crazy hot. He's had a little bit of a skid, but he's, they're finding ways to win hockey games. But that being said, for some of these other guys, an extended break like this is so important, right? Because now you're revigorated and you have that energy. Because the one thing I will tell you from playing the NHL and being around this game, this time of year, there's no catch up, right? There's no like getting in shape. There's no like extra time to get yourself ready. Like, so that prep work, to prepare for that against a guy like that who has so much experience, I think that break's going to be very important as we look at this Leafs playoff run coming up.
I like this take. Mike Batson writes in, Tanev is Leafs Hart. Who'd be the Hart Trophy winner for the Maple Leafs? Like, that's a really good question.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. That is a tricky one, right? I think you could make an argument for Tanev. I think Jake McCabe has been a bit
Nick
of a
Robertson. Probably not. No.
Anthony Stolarz, he missed some time. Like, I think he's a guy that you can make that argument. Early in the year, how many games did we look at this Leafs team and we're like, oh, we won, we played well, but like Stolarz stopped 35 of 36 and he was a difference maker. And I think that's important. So it's hard to really narrow one guy down. Like, obviously, Mitch Marner's been very good. I don't want to say that. I think people might attack me if I say Mitch Marner.
Probably.
But again, I think it's been like, winning by committee, which is going to be important for this team.
Maxentius Decimus writes in Matthew Nyes Hart. I like that. I think my pick would go to Willie Nylander. It just seems like every big goal this team has scored this year has gone to Nylander, and I think he's been the most consistent player on the team. But I think you make a pretty reputable case for Anthony Stolarz or Nyes or McCabe or Tanev. I think a big element is like you always like to play that hypothetical game with a Hart Trophy winner. You take them off the roster, how does that team look? And quite frankly, I think that's why you can make a pretty good case for Kirill Kaprizov. I know he's not going to win it, missed half the season, but the Wild have not been the same team without that guy.
Yeah, I think Boldy just passed him in points
Yeah.
last week, and he'd been out forever, right? It just shows you the difference. And now you look at the standings, Minnesota's sitting in the second wild card spot in the East, which is wild for a team that was like they were going to finish in third or second at that point. So it is a big difference maker with him being out. And that being said, again, you could probably make that same argument for Connor Hellebuck right now. You say if you lose him, the Winnipeg Jets team is not the same team. So it's been exciting. And I think for the Leafs, I would love to see a best defensive defenseman award, not just like points. And because I feel like that is such an element that sometimes gets overlooked because we just look to the box score so much.
Yep. And I would just add too, admittedly, like I do have a big fat ticket on Kaprizov to win the Hart Trophy. That's just not going to cash. But yeah, that's always been an evolving conversation in the NHL world is the awards market. And can we fine tune things? Can we change this up? My big gripe is like who votes on some of these awards. Just go look at that and your head's going to spin. But nevertheless, looking forward to tonight's edition of TLN After Dark with Zach Phillips and special guest Dave Pagnotta. 8 games remaining. This is a big one with the Florida Panthers tonight. Speaking of which, former GM, head coach, a lot of affiliation to the Florida Panthers. Doug MacLean's going to drop by in about 18 minutes here to break down this one. And this is going to be the talk of the town, but I think it's funny because now we head into this game and the Leafs actually 1 point up on Tampa, 2 points up on the Panthers here.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy where we're sitting. It's going to be a dogfight. And again, this is a very important hockey game, right? Again, it's not just for that standard. And when I look at their schedule coming up here, they have some games here that, are really, 8 games remaining. I would figure, 7 of them kind of feel like playoff games to me, where I got it here now in front of me, the Jackets right next, who's a desperate hockey team who are scoring at will. Then you got the Panthers again, then the Lightnings, and then the Habs. Like those are in these next 5 games. These are huge games in the division, in the playoff race. And I think this is a good measuring stick of like where their game is at, right? I think that's something that's so important for this team is I know early in the year, we always talk about like, whatever, right? It's a throwaway game, but now these aren't really throwaway games. You're at the point where it's really hard to evolve from where you're at in these next 8 games to just turn a switch on come playoff time. So that's going to be a good measuring stick for this hockey team.
As mentioned, it's time for the captain to lead by example. I want Austin Matthews to be the best player on the ice tonight against the Florida Panthers. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Think you know hockey? Play Sobeys My NHL Picks weekly for the chances to win big prizes like a trip for 4 to this year's Stanley Cup Final. A new slate of games opens up every Thursday from now until the end of the regular season. So download the Sobeys app and start playing today for your chance to win. In fact, I had the Florida Panthers to beat the Montreal Canadiens last night, not only at Bet365, but also my Sobeys NHL picks. And 8 seconds left, they tie it, and then they win in OT. It just hurt a lot last night. I won't lie.
I guess you didn't watch your boys starting goalies on Daily Faceoff there because
I did. I made the bet before, and I'm like, they are going to start Vitek Vanacek, and he's going to have a diarrhea fart late in that hockey game, and it's exactly what happened. He was actually pretty good in that game.
No, he played well. That's a tough break on. I didn't love the OT winner. I feel like he's overcommitted. But again, I think you thought he was going to get support and didn't want to get beat. But that being said, just the energy in that building, it was a lot of fun. And again, I love that we get Bobrovsky tonight, though, because I want to beat them at their best, right? Let's do this with their guy in net and where they're at. I know it's a back-to-back, so I look for Florida to start well. But that being said, man, the Habs, they got something brewing up there. I don't really think they're going to do much damage if they do get in the playoffs, but it's fun to see here.
Yeah, it's fun to see, and like never say never with that team. If you go look at their history of making the playoffs, they usually like make it out of the first round. And I know it looks daunting right now, but the Capitals are a team. I think you look at them and you look at the body of work and you understand that they're a really good team, but I think they're beatable. Like, I think there's a lot of question marks with that team surrounding the playoffs.
I agree. And I'm not totally sold on Logan Thompson. I know everyone was up in arms when he didn't make the Four Nations Cup, but I just don't know if he's going to be a difference maker come playoff time. And obviously adding Ryan Leonard is great. This team is a good addition, but I always get worrisome of a team that's like chugging along here pretty well and you add a new guy, right? It adds a different dynamic. And how many times have we seen that, Nick, where teams get somebody at the trade deadline and it doesn't fit, right? I know we talk about Lawton's obviously struggled, but I mean, like Ryan Leonard's like a top 6 guy that's going to play, in a good role, where what if that messes up the chemistry and things don't go well? So I don't think the Capitals are in the clear here by any means, other than Ovi. Ovi's pregame talks in the tunnel is a national treasure for me. The bands make it. He's calling him Leonardo last night. I was dying. I love it. Ovi's an absolute beauty.
Oh, he's so chill. And then on top of that, like we got a chance, as you remember, to interview Spencer Carberry. I don't know if you caught the video last night of him talking, debriefing with the team after the game. It's like, man, he is so motivating. You can tell why he's having a lot of success right now with the Washington Capitals. And hockey's such a weird sport too, where it's like, for example, the Leafs always have their issues with Florida. And then conversely, you look at an inferior team like the Montreal Canadiens, just like swept the season series here with the Panthers. It makes absolutely no sense, does it?
No, it doesn't. And that's why hockey is so confusing. It's weird that teams have and I remember playing that way. I remember playing Dallas. Like I felt like every time I played in Dallas over my 3 years with the Preds and 2 years in St. Louis in that Central Division, like I bet you the record of our team, not just me, we were like 2-12. It was just one of those rinks where one of those teams, it just feels like they get it going. And again, the Habs this year going 3-0 against the Panthers. Vic dropped that number for us. It's wild, right? When you look at that, that might be the difference why you get in the playoffs. And there's always those key head-to-head matchups. And Ottawa's got, I think Columbus here in the next 2 games. There's a lot of good matchups down the stretch here. And again, for the Leafs, you got the Panthers twice and the Lightning. This is a good measuring stick come playoff time.
Yeah, and this is the good thing from the Toronto perspective is you sort of control your own destiny here. Just take care of business, and you're going to finish first overall in the Atlantic Division. Pacioretty and Hakanpää took part in Tuesday's practice. We talked a bit about Max Pacioretty on Friday. I think we both fully expect Pacioretty to be there at some point in time. I wouldn't be shocked if he strolls out there for game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I can't get there with Hakanpää. And by the way, I know John Klingberg signed with Edmonton. He's injured right now. I think he played a few games and right back on the IR, my friend.
It's crazy too. And Klingberg had been offered a deal in Dallas that year, right? And he didn't take it, right? Didn't he?
I think it was 7 times 9 or something like that.
And he tried to hold out for more. Like that might be one of, like in our generation, might be the craziest miss ever of not taking that contract, right? Like the way things have gone after for Klingberg. But that being said, I think Pacioretty is who he is, right? I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be desperate to be in this lineup, and he's going to do whatever he can take. Again, it's just more the worrisome if, another injury happens, right? Especially if he's going to play hard minutes. I think he's going to be not playing a ton of minutes when he does get in, but he's going to be an important role. His physicality, kind of on that like identity line, I'd like to think that we're going to try to develop come playoff time. And for Hakanpää, I don't know what to think, man. I don't even know what this guy brings to the table. Truthfully, it's been so long since we've seen him on the ice and what he does. So I like the D-core right now. I think Morgan Riley is going to be the big question mark back there. And again, if you can slot him in better minutes and take some pressure off him because of the way Carlo's going to be able to help out in his playoff experience, maybe that makes it easier on the back end for the goalies.
Boys Soul writes in Hakanpää 3C. I tend to agree with that, but you're so right. The guy has played 2 games. He looked very, very slow. And you're telling me you're going to chuck him out there in game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs against whomever, Brady Tkachuk or Dylan Cousins, or if it's the Tampa Bay Lightning Kucherov point. I just don't see it. I think quite effectively he's going to be a cheerleader. And I will say this, if Hakanpää's playing, I think you're in trouble, probably.
Yeah, I would assume that he would be a guy that is not in the lineup to start. And maybe if things go south early, you get him in there. But if he's not going to see any action before the playoffs, it's going to be really, really tough to put him in a game. But we are seeing Ryan Reeves today, and he's playing for the Marlies. They got a 10:30 game. He is in the lineup. So that is never thought we'd see that this year, I sure, Nick.
Yeah, producer Vic sent us the video, the tweet of Ryan Reeves in an AHL game, and I think it's the right thing to do, regardless of what the player wants. I know he's got an NHL deal. I know he was sent down to the minors, but I don't think he's played a game in a month. I think his last game actually was March 2nd. Today's April 2nd. So if you think there's still a shot, you never know with the Leafs. You never know with Berube in a playoff style. If you want to play maybe in the playoffs, you have to play some games. So it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is. You got to get some game reps in. And that's something, again, like circling back to Pacioretty and Hakanpää, and I think we talked about this last week, is there's nothing that can recreate game action and game physicality. And you can be in the best shape in the gym, on the rink, but in a game, it's a different animal, being bumped, being grinded. And as a goalie, I feel like it's different. It's just more timing and sight lines and battling through traffic. But for players, you have to get game reps in. And I don't care what you say, Ryan Reeves, if he wants a chance to try to maybe be an option. Again, injuries happen, right? You need depth. And again, you got to play minutes, and you got to, get that game up to speed if you really want to actually have a chance to play.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, getting set, getting you prepped for the Panthers visiting the Toronto Maple Leafs again in a week from now. The Leafs will be at Bank Arena in Sunrise, but the Leafs 2 points up on Florida, 1 point up on Tampa, the third of 4 meetings this season. Toronto's won 6 of 8. Home ice matter for you at all? They're 23-13-1 at Scotiabank Arena, but I'm inclined to think the Leafs can win anywhere. It would be nice to win and be on home ice, but how many times has this team had home ice in a series and not got away with the win? So who knows?
I know. I know their playoff record in the last little bit at home isn't great, right? But again, I feel like those are stats you got to throw out the window in the sense of like each year is its own individual identity, right? And again, I think just having the advantage of home ice, you'd rather take it than give it up, right? I think just going into it, if you had the choice, you got to take the home ice and get an easier matchup, right? I know there's no easy matchups come playoffs, but that being said, the Leafs are going to control their own fate. So take all your stats and everything. The last time that the Bruins and who else misses the playoff, the Leafs won the cup. I forget they dropped that yesterday. Detroit, right? But it doesn't matter, right? I remember people talking to me sometimes where we would be winning games or things are going well, fans, and people would be like, I'm wearing my lucky socks, or last time you won this many games, this is what happened. Like, as a player, you don't get involved in that. You just worry about what's in the present. I think that's going to be so important for this team, is playing the right style of hockey. Because whether you're at home or on the road, if you're not going to get it done, there's going to be tough games. So if you want to win a Stanley Cup, you got to do it on the road and at home, both ways. So it don't matter.
Hey, it depends how superstitious you are, because you can't forget who scored the first goal of the season for the Maple Leafs, Max Pacioretty, who wears number 67. But yeah, that was the big thing said on Spit and Chicklets yesterday, I believe, by Ryan Whitney, is the fact that the last time Detroit and Boston both missed the playoffs in the same season, the Leafs won the Stanley Cup. It's been that long. But you got to seize the opportunity. You got to win one round before you can win 4, right? I think we always tend to get ahead of ourselves in this market. There's excitement for sure. There's positivity. But I keep maintaining on social media, because people keep asking me, who do you want the Leafs to play? I think the Leafs are I want them to beat themselves. I mean, that's the big story for me, is like they get to the playoffs and they shit themselves, and it hasn't really mattered about the opponent. That's why I've been consistent in saying I really don't care. I truly feel that way. I don't care who they play.
Yeah, I think that should be the mindset too, right? It's got to be what goes on in that room, and your stars have to be your stars. And again, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on certain guys to perform. I think Mitch Marner being one of them. And then again, like that, obviously Austin Matthews is a little bit worrisome, what we've seen from him. I hope during this last little stretch, maybe we see that reinvigorated. I know he defends well, but when you're one of the best goal scorers in the NHL, you have to be a difference maker. And that is why you get paid all that money, and you need to do it on a nightly basis. But again, I'm okay with Austin Matthews being irrelevant these last 8 games. If come playoff time, he's the Austin Matthews that we've known to come and love it. And again, I feel like there's some players that I give a pass to, right? Scott Laughton, the adjustment period where he's been, come playoff time, if he can be just an absolute bulldog and be a difference maker, it's going to be important. But it's a little worrisome, this stretch that he's been on. And those perimeter guys, they're going to be a difference maker. That depth scoring, is it going to come? Because they're going to be in a dogfight here as it goes, Nick.
I need Matthews and Marner to grab this game by the balls. We've seen way too many games this season where they play a team that checks as well as Florida, and they're very, very perimeter. I think I've got to see a sneak peek to what we expect in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And from the Matthews perspective, I just talked about it with Nick Suzuki. Grab control of this game. You're the captain, man. You're the best player on the ice. Show me that. The Panthers in the back end of the back-to-back, I thought Montreal took a chunk out of them last night. They played them heavy. They played them strong. They're going to be pissed off. Bobrovsky's in there. Barkov missed a lot of the second period last night. They're licking their wounds coming into Toronto, but rest assured, you're going to get the best effort from the Florida Panthers in this game, not to mention no Ekblad, no Matthew Tkachuk still for that team.
Yeah, I know. Still some pieces missing. So this is a game that has to have a statement. And I feel like there's more pressure on Toronto, just the mentality and mindset with the postseason nearing, right? You have this game against Florida Panthers, the team that has been the benchmark here the last few years in the Eastern Conference and in the NHL, right? If they lose this game, I feel like there's just more doubt and more like black cloud hanging over them, as we go down the stretch toward playoffs, where I think Florida's earned that leash, that no matter what happens down this stretch run, they have that experience. So for the Leafs, I think just general psyche and feel of the room is so important. And again, momentum is so valuable, Nick. It's something that you don't really, when you lose it, it's tough, right? You look at the St. Louis Blues right now. Like, Imagine the vibes in that room and that energy and the confidence coming in every day, where if, Toronto drops this one or they drop the next one or where they're at, it starts to self-implode a bit. You start doubting yourself, and that's something that can be dangerous, I think, for a team that has a bad history come playoff time.
Leaping Lanny Poffel, one of the best handles I've seen here in our chat. Marchand first goal with Panthers tonight. I think Marchand has been very pedestrian so far, very tentative with the Florida Panthers. And you're so right. There is no pressure, absolutely no pressure on the Panthers to win this game. All the pressure is on the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Panthers have climbed that summit. They don't care where they're going in the standings. Same combo we have every year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think they care. Just get us in there. We'll do our thing. But from the Toronto perspective, it is way different. Not only do you got to prove that you can beat Florida and play with Florida, you want to create the best path possible to do something substantial. So all the pressure, Huts, is on the Maple Leafs tonight.
100%, right? Again, this has like been the season of just waiting for these kind of games and moments, right? Like, I feel like we started talking about this before the season started, and it's like, well, talk to me in April. Talk to me in well, April's here now, right? So this is a time where it's like, these are big boy games, right? This is where we measure a team. And I think this is where Craig Berube, the plan that he put in place to try to get these guys to play the right way. And yes, we can talk about Marchand and where they're at and him scoring, but like, he's a proven big game player, right? And that's what Florida Panthers have. You get that leash. You've earned that right to, have a few bad games and the world doesn't self-implode. But for the Leafs, they don't have that because we don't have anything to draw upon. We have one playoff round win, right? So that is where they are at, and it's going to be crunch time now. And I think it's an exciting time, but I am confident. I do like where they're at, but there's going to be some big moments for big players to step up here.
Yeah, just a lot of hope in this market, that's for sure. So unsurprisingly, they're going to go with the same lineup, we think. I know a lot made about, the optional morning skate. Zach Phillips, I think, woke up early to tweet about that, but 17 different media members talked about the optional skate. I think 12 different players showed up who are playing in tonight's game. But any surprise they're going to go with Anthony Stolarz, who was 0-2 against his former team this season?
No, I don't think so, because I think he is the guy right now for them, right? I think going into LA and playing as well as he did was an important game for this team after, a little bit of a debacle in San Jose. And obviously, Wool's been good too. I don't know. I'm still up in the air about this. I think Anthony Stolarz is your guy right now come game one, because I think they've kind of said that way, and he hasn't really lost the crease. But I still think it's a short leash because Joseph Woll has so much upside to him in the way he can play. And that being said, you're going to have a back-to-back coming up anyway with Florida and Tampa. So we're going to see both of them, and it's going to be a big measuring stick here who becomes your game one starter come playoff in this last little stretch.
Zach writes in, was it well attended? Yes, Zach, the morning skate was well attended. Even Max Pacioretty was there, who out of nowhere has showed up again here at Leafs practice as we get closer and closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I wonder too, and I'm battling with my earpiece today, man. It just won't stay in my ears. So please don't mind me. But the dreaded first game back after the Western road trip, how do you think, how do you avoid that? I know the Panthers are going to be hot. I mean, there's no excuses. The Panthers played last night in Montreal, but I do think this is a factor coming into this game as the Leafs were out west. And how many different interviews did you see them talking about time change out there?
Yeah, it is an adjustment, right? And the only thing that I like is they got that extra day, right? They come and flew back on the 31st. You get a day to kind of like grease it out, and then you're back on it today. So that being said, I think that extra day is so important because I remember that trip, right? I remember one time we ended up sweeping out there, and then we came home, and then we just got absolutely pounded by Ottawa, who's a brutal team when I played in St. Louis. And it felt like that way. We couldn't get to our game. It's hard to find energy. You're still a little bit back, but if you can't get up for this game, then you can't get up for anything, because these are the games that you're going to have to play in if you want to win a Stanley Cup. If you're going to have to go through somebody, you look out west, you look at some of the teams that are, really creating noise. If you want to get to a Stanley Cup, you might have to travel and play the next day. And this is stuff you have to deal with. This is the NHL. And again, if you can't get up for one tonight, then I don't know if they're going to be able to get up for it come playoff time.
That's exactly it, and we're pumped for this one tonight as the Leafs host the Florida Panthers at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. This interview is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. And again, the Florida Panthers in town following this game against Montreal. They go with Vanacek last night and Bobrovsky tonight. But it should be intriguing to see how the Panthers come out. They're going to be red hot, I think, after the way they lost that game, Huts, right?
Yeah, I think so, right? And again, these are important games for this team, right? You talk about their leadership, what they have in the room. They're still missing a few key guys, but that being said, like there's not many teams in the NHL, if any, that when you go into Toronto, it is game you get up for, right? There's always local guys there. It is the mecca of hockey. It is a big fishbowl, and it's an exciting time for a team that is good. And you don't think Florida wants to win the division, right? They don't want to stay and play against Tampa, right? That being said, I know they have a little bit more of a leash and more experience to not care about it, but they're going to be up for this one tonight, Nick.
Yes, they are. Former NHL and GM, the one and only Doug MacLean now joins us here on Leafs Want to Take. What's going on, Doug?
Oh, tough day. I just played 18 this morning. And I'm I played 18 yesterday, so I'm exhausted, to be quite honest. And but appreciate the invite. I don't know if am I hooked on all right here? I got to hide I have to hide certain areas because Jill doesn't want me to show the pillows in the bedroom here.
You deserve it. I was going to say you deserve it. Hope you're enjoying it out there. And great of you to join us. Obviously a big game here, the Leafs and the Panthers after what happened last night with the Panthers. What's your read on this one tonight at Scotiabank Arena?
Well, look, it's a great test. I mean, the Leafs have been playing well lately. I mean, they come off a stinker in San Jose where they were. I thought they looked pathetic, and then all of a sudden they come back. Look, they played LA. LA's a heck of a team right now, guys, and I like the way they played. I think they're in pretty good shape, going into the playoffs. I think it's critical to get that first spot. Although, do you want to play Ottawa? I don't know. Who do you want to play? Florida, Tampa, Ottawa. I mean, they're all pretty good teams right now, but I think I'd take my chances with Ottawa.
Yeah, I think that being said, I'm with you there, right? And I won't judge your pillows because I'm in my kids' room, so I got all sorts. I got Pokemon pillows beside me too. So
So what do you make your kids study maps or what?
No, I don't know. This is
geography.
I think I decorated in here, Doug. This isn't me. I just do as I'm told, just like with your wife. So I love this team. I guess maybe I just hope I'm so optimistic.
Just a minute. You love which team? Toronto?
Toronto. I love Craig Berube. I think where they're at and, just kind of building toward it, their back end, their goaltending. But is this team good enough, do you think, to beat Florida in a 7-game series? That's my only concern.
You know what? That's going to be the test. I mean, today they can beat Florida, in my opinion. I think Tkachuk is a big X factor. I'm hearing his groin is not very good. So that's going to be very interesting. Is he going to be ready to go full out in the first round? I mean, Heiskanen's out in Dallas till at least the second round. What's Tkachuk's situation going to be? And as I mentioned, somebody told me this morning, it's not great right now. So we'll see. Bobrovsky's another, this guy can win a series himself the way he was last year. Here's Toronto. I'm with you. I like the way they're set up. Finally, after 5 years, they have a chance to have a good third line. I know Lachlan, the kid hasn't been good from Philly, but I think it's the makings of a decent third line. And their fourth line's not bad. To me, their 1-2 on the back end is not a 1-2 on the back end. I love Tanev. I love the way that pair, McKay, but they're not, to me, they're a 3-4 is what they are. And then you got Carlo and Riley with Riley's year. You're a little nervous there, and then you go down to the 5-6. So I'm a little nervous about the lack of that big horse on the back end, which you guys know as well as I do is the absolute most critical thing at playoff time, is that big guy on the back end or a team that's going to win a Stanley Cup. So we'll see how they fare with that.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is the big boys. We have this conversation every spring, and I said it going into today's show. Austin Matthews has to grab this game by the balls. Like, you need Marner, you need Matthews. I think this is the time to prove that you're different this year, right?
Yeah, and is this the game? Well, yeah, it's a bit of a statement game going into the playoffs. They've been good lately, this group, but the pressure on them is over the top. And it's pressure on the entire organization, guys. If they lose in the first round, I don't care how much you love Berube, Tree Living, Shanahan. It might rattle a lot of people if they lose in the first round. So there's a lot of jobs on the line here, in my opinion, a lot. Not only the big four up front, who have never got it done really at playoff time, and they're good enough to get it done, but will they? That's a lot of pressure on those guys. We know they're capable of it, but will they when they're going head to head with, like, you guys know what it's like at playoff time, guys. It goes up 25%, the intensity and the battles. And can they join the crowd? Can they do it? And talent's there to do it. The will has got to be there too.
Yeah, I think rightfully so, right? It's got to the point where expectations, and you look around, you look at Boston, Tampa, and Florida, all these teams that have had this success, and Toronto's just sitting here stale. And, you know, you've been around the game for so long as a GM. Like in my playing days, I guess I was never really worried about where we were slotted come playoff time. You're just in the moment playing. Do you think that has an effect on this team? Like, as your GM, like, do you want to win this division and get away from going to Florida in the first round?
You want to finish first if possible, because that signifies you've had a marvelous regular season. If you win first in this conference, in this division, you've had a heck of a season. You really have, and full marks for that. But you're right; it doesn't matter. You go into the playoffs, and it's always tougher going into the playoffs where the skill guys, the grinders and the secondary guys go to a whole nother level in the playoffs. The big guys, the whole strategy going against the Leafs is to shut the big boys down. Can they shut down two good lines? That's the question. McMahon has really changed the second line, in my opinion. I'd love to see him on the third line, but I love what he's done, and I love the first two lines. So Nyes and McMahon have changed the complexion and the look of this team, in my opinion. So, and that should help the big boys. We'll see.
John Tavares, a big story in the month of March, 13 goals in 15 games, and he's found sort of another foot this year, which I did not expect. How impressed have you been with his game, and has your opinion changed on what his outlook should be long-term with this organization?
Yeah, look, the long term for the organization is going to be judged on the playoffs. And because, guys, if they fold the tent, they're going to have to make some big changes. And John would probably be the logic. You know, we don't know where Marner's going to be, what's going to happen with him. Probably will test free agency. But Tavares is a very good player. He's had an amazing career. He's always been a good player. He's a pro. I like lots of things about JT. I thought the wheels would fall off. And he's battled through that. Nylander helps. There's no denying that with him. And McMahon helps because they bring speed and skill. And that helps JT. So you got to be careful to go buy good players, guys. They're hard to find. And I know dollars become a critical part of that whole process, but you've got to be careful when you make a decision to go buy good players. It's not easy. We saw Colorado go buy Rantanen. You know, McKinnon's picked it up there. To me, they look like a very good team right now, maybe the best in the league. We'll see.
Got a question in the chat, and you talked about it a bit there. Would you re-sign Mitch Marner? What's your read on that situation?
Well, if he's the best player in the playoffs, yeah, you're going to sign him. If he goes goalless, then it's a big question mark. But again, where are the Leafs without Mitch Marner in the regular season? Where are they without? We know Matthews is going to be there. Where are they without John Tavares in the regular season? Who are you going to sign in the offseason that makes up for a Marner? That's what I mean. It's so hard to get good players. Yeah, you draft great players coming out of junior. But how many of them ever become Mitch Marner, John Tavares? A lot of them don't, and you've got to be careful. And it's going to be a big question for Treeler. But he's going to have to change the makeup of the team.
Yeah, and again,
if they don't win.
Yes, again, I feel like this season has been a formality, right? It's been like whether they were the second wild card team or first in the division, this team is going to be judged on how they do in the playoffs, right? With that being said, I feel like that's why Craig Berube was brought in here. They had Sheldon Keefe. He kind of didn't really run the room. They got to do what they want. What do you think of Craig Berube's job so far? And you think this is going to translate to more of a grind style come playoff time to get through this Atlantic and the Eastern Conference? You know,
it's sort of fluctuated up and down with me on the job Craig's done. I mean, lots of times during the season, I questioned the job he was doing, and is he the right guy for the talent? Is he the right guy? We know he's the right guy. He might be a great coach with the Florida Panthers with the way they play. Can he get these guys to perform at playoff time? He did a great job in St. Louis. When you win a Stanley Cup, you know you're right at the top of the coaching charts for me. I think he's done a great job recently. I question him a lot during the regular season. So we'll see how playoffs is going to be a real test of how he is as a strategy guy. You don't need that as much in the regular season, but in the playoffs, when you go game to game, you've got to be a strategist. Your power play, there's a sputtered up and down, better lately. You know, the coaching becomes, in my opinion, very, very important with matchups, who you want to play against who you want to play your D pair against. That's where coaching really comes to the forefront, and getting your big guys away from the pressure they're going to get if they play a Panthers or a Hedman and a McDonough and those types of guys. So I'm anxious to watch him in that thing, but there's no denying, Craig, you know, hey, they're in first place. What do you say? The guy's a genius today.
Yeah, you really can't say much. And I think that's an excellent point, because oftentimes in the Stanley Cup playoffs, that's what I feel puts teams over the top is coaching. And unfortunately, Sheldon Keefe is a guy who from that aspect really, really failed when it came to the Stanley Cup playoffs. But another thing, I think decision-making time in the postseason is going to be very interesting when it comes to the crease and how you play that crease. I think we can all agree in this conversation, we're likely going to see Stolarz and Wall together in the same series. But how would you handle the crease over the next 8 games here, Doug?
I thought Wall looked really small, and your co-host knows a lot more about goaltending than I do, but I thought Wall looked really small in those in the San Jose game and a couple of games. I didn't like the way he looked recently. I think Stolarz is the guy right now, and can he get it done? That's a big question, guys. He's going head to head with Vasilevsky or Ullmark or Bobrovsky. That's a big test for a goaltender that's never really had to carry the ball this time of year. So to me, that's one of the major question marks. And I know they've had great seasons, and it's the best goaltending the Leafs have had in a long time. But playoffs are a different story.
That's right. And I'm with you there. And I do feel the same way about Stolarz, but this is another animal, right? Being able to be the guy come playoff time. And again, what I think the plan should be here is a short leash, right? I think Joseph Wall hasn't been the better goalie as of late, but I do still like his upside and his ceiling. And what I've seen from him in the past is his mental capacity to manage these big moments, right? He's been in a lot of games, and it's been him getting injured has always been like the killer. So that being said, a short leash, you know, Doug, obviously I think going into this, you just have to be optimistic. At least they have 2 options in a series where, you know, they're going to be in a dogfight.
And you know what? In the playoffs, short leashes, you don't want to be changing goaltenders. That's a sign that you're in trouble. And you want your guy to start and you want him to finish. You know, that's what Bobrovsky and that's what Vasilevsky are going to do. And that's what Ullmark has to do in Ottawa if they happen to play them. So you really, if Stolarz is going to be the guy, you can't go in there thinking, well, if he's not good enough, we may have to go with Wall, and maybe it's too late. That's the only thing that concerns me. So, I mean, look, Stolarz has had a great year. I love the way he looks in the net. I don't know anything about goaltending, but I knew enough when I was a coach to play Van Beesbrook over Mark Fitzpatrick. I knew enough to do that.
Good call.
and he made me some money, Beezer. So it's hard. I know it's a lifetime ago, but he was at 5'7". So you know what? It's the goaltending is going to be a question mark. The matchup on the blue lines is going to be a question mark. And can the big boys come through? Like I said, the bottom of their lineup, I think, has a chance to be difficult to play against. I'm hoping that's what and I'm sure Craig is hoping that too, that the 3rd and 4th line are going to be battlers, and that's what you need.
Doug, I need a prediction. Come the Stanley Cup playoffs, where do you see this Maple Leafs team going?
Well, I said on Kipper's show the other day that I have a solution for it. We're in the middle of a tariff war here. Canada owns the Stanley Cup. Put an unbelievable tariff on the Stanley Cup so that they can't afford to take it to the States, and maybe the Leafs will have a chance to win it this year. Maybe. Other than that, I'm nervous.
There's so many good teams, and I think it's wide open in the Eastern Conference.
I was in Vegas a month or so ago, and I spent quite a bit of time with George McPhee, and George said to me, Doug, I really think there's 11 teams that can win the Stanley Cup right now.
Yep.
And this is George, who's on top, who's watched a lot more hockey than I have this year, and he really believes there's that many good teams, and you see it in the standings. So, you know what it's like. You get on a run, you get confidence. I think the Panthers are a little out of sync right now. I really do. And, they're not as good in the back end. I mean, Ekblad played pretty well for them in the playoffs. He battled like crazy. Montour was really good last year. They're not as good on the back end, in my opinion. I know Jones has come in there playing. He's playing 27 minutes a game. I don't think he should be doing that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not sure the Panthers are hitting on all cylinders like they were this time last year.
I think there's a hope they hit the wall too. I mean, this would be third consecutive Cup final or going deep at least in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Doug, excellent job tonight. Enjoy the game and enjoy the playoffs. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Good luck with the show, guys. I enjoy catching it once in a while. Good job.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that.
Okay, boys. Take care.
Take care. That is Doug MacLean. Doing some excellent stuff. And I love the hot takes too. Never short an opinion is Doug MacLean. Very appreciative of his time today.
Yeah, no, it's great. And again, I do like the comment about the short leash, right? With the goaltending and not going in with that mindset, but it's nice to have options, right? Where when you look at Ottawa or you look at Tampa Bay and Florida, it's all or nothing, right? But I do think you have two unproven guys here in Toronto come playoff time. Yes, I think Woll has been good, but it's exciting. Now I think as we get down to crunch time, there's so many different storylines. And that being said, I think when you look at what, he said, George McPhee said about 11 teams can win the Stanley Cup, it's going to come down to those, like the stars being the stars, right? They're going to cancel out and then add in that perimeter stuff. Even the Bobby McMahon, like if he can come through and have a big playoff series or, that depth scoring is going to be so important. So it's going to be an exciting time, I think, across the board in the NHL.
Huts, you ready for this? We got a new segment, buddy. New sponsor. Let's fire this up. It's now time for the crispy hot take of the day presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer.
Meet the first of its kind. The Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
Look, I'll just put this out there. I need one of those like ASAP. It looks tremendous. And I love this segment for so many reasons, but among them is a way to incorporate producer Vic, who's not going to be on camera today, but the focus is down the road to have producer Vic, and pretty self-explanatory. Producer Vic's going to have a hot take and we're going to react to it. You ready for this?
Yeah, I like it. I'm in. I'm in.
He wrote down, here's the hot take for today. Regardless of positioning in the standings, the Maple Leafs should sit/load manage Chris Tanev down the stretch. What do you think of that, Huts?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I think the idea of this guy playing a ton of minutes, it's not like he flips a switch and starts playing a different style of brand of hockey, right? Like the Chris Tanev you get now is a Chris Tanev you're going to get. It's just everyone else has elevated their game, so it's even harder on him. So I actually don't hate that hot take, Vic. I'm with you there. And I actually love that crispy air fryer. I'm going to definitely get one of those for my wife because that's going to be a great gift.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal gift idea, certainly. I'm lukewarm on this because I guess I put stock in, and I'm the wrong person to ask. You guys know I don't care if they win the division. I don't care who they play. But if you're steadfast on winning this division, who's the guy you need? It's Chris Tanev, because in a normal circumstance, and they're about to clinch a playoff spot any day now, Chris Tanev, for example, the back-to-back next weekend in Florida and Tampa, respectively, I'd probably play him one of those two games. I would try to clear a pathway for Chris Tanev to play maybe 6 of the last 8 games. Maybe wouldn't play him the Detroit game too, the last game of the season on the 17th. I think I want him full steam ahead for game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. But it's a tough time to have this hot take because this team is battling for first in the division right now.
I guess it's where you value it too, right? I guess you can look back at last year, Matthews chasing 70 goals and being like,
Exactly.
that was high priority. And I think that bit us in the butt, right? So that being said, I think a few nights off for Tanev isn't going to like throw off his like game and where he's at. I feel like he's a guy that can come in and out of the lineup with ease, and he can get to that game because it is a simpler game in the sense of like he just plays a hard-nosed positioning and he's good at that. So that being said, maybe you win a few games and you have a little bit of that, but I still think you're capable of winning without him in the lineup. I think having him rested and ready to go is going to be very valuable for this team.
He's huge. And by the way, I shot a couple texts around yesterday and found out that tentatively the Leafs are scheduled to open up the Stanley Cup playoffs on Saturday, April 19th. That's when their first game would be. And then game 2 would be the 21st. So the 19th and the 21st tentatively scheduled for game 1 and 2 here for the Maple Leafs.
Crazy. It's April and it's coming soon. A couple weeks now. Wow. It's exciting.
I'm already worrying about the fact that they play Thursday and then they're going to have to start Saturday. And you really can't ice a different roster because of the salary cap. Like we talked about Ryan Reeves. I guess he's playing on the second line today for the Marlies. How about that? A bit of a bump there for Revo.
The Revo bump, the Marley bump. But so then that being said, doesn't that give us more reason to want to manage Tanev and want to be smarter down the stretch?
Yeah.
Because like Thursday to Saturday is insane. That's actually so dumb. Like I think that's crazy. I know they want to hit it on a Saturday night, but to not have at least a couple days, like there should be at least 3 days. And I think a little bit of a reset, even for fan bases. Like I think a couple days is huge, but
I know we talked about this yesterday. I think this is the first season in recent memory where usually they end on the Saturday. Remember, they have like they ice a roster that's like dog shit and it's not the same team. And they really reduce minutes and then they start on the Wednesday. I think that's too long of a break. I think the perfect buffer is like 3 days. Maybe if you finish your season Wednesday, start Saturday, I'd be content with that. But it kind of alarms me. And I guess most teams are going to be in that case where you end Thursday and right there to game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs on Saturday. So be it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. They just signed a deal for $1 bazillion, so they're obviously doing something right. But for that being said, I remember this is the Jamie Benn game. Remember when Jamie Benn beat out John Tavares for the scoring title? We didn't dress anyone in Nashville. I was in net. I gave up 4 points. So you're welcome, Jamie Benn.
Attaboy.
He still owes me a case of wine. So I don't know if he's watching, but I'm sure he is. So just send that my way there, Mr. Benn.
Maybe we'll get Jordy Ben on the show. I almost got him earlier on this season when he retired. Then he found out you were on the show. He's like, no, thank you.
That's not very nice, Nick. Good thing I enjoy having my feelings hurt. I'm used to it for years of being a goalie.
I know. I always chirp my beer league goalie as well. They just can take it very, very well. But it is an all-in-one system that includes a 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant. It can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you can get the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max Crisp, bake, air fry, and re-crisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the show description and stay tuned for your chance to win a free Ninja Crispy. So maybe that's your pathway to winning this Ninja Crispy for your wife, Hutz.
I like it. We went to a Mardi Gras event here. It was a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity, and they had like a draw, and we put all our tickets in for an air fryer. So all my buddies were like, why don't you just go buy an air fryer? I'm like, because it just hits different if I can win a free one. I think that's an important factor in this.
And this is a guy who made a couple mil in his career.
Yeah, well, hey, it's not how much you make, it's how much you save, pal. I got a long life to live. I want to be like Doug MacLean playing golf and joining the show, from Florida at my retirement home.
Max got a great tan going, by the way. Producer Vic put up a poll in the chat right now at the Leafs Nation 401. Should the Maple Leafs load manage Chris Tanev down the stretch? So he's backing up this hot take. 63% said yes. 36% said no. So there's your answer right there.
There it is. We are the GM for the day. Let's see. Let's send those results to Tree Living and see what he thinks.
Zach Phillips is in a mood today. He's going at it with Leap and Lanny here in the chat. Called him a Marner gobbler.
Minute muncher. He's a minute Marner. Minute muncher.
Yeah, no, they're going at it about Marner. I mean, that's the hill that Zach's gonna to lie on, and I agree. I mean, he made a good point in the chat that Doug brought it. I mean, if Marner does his thing in the playoffs, I think Leafs fans in general would be more inclined to pay the guy.
Yeah,
but it's a wait and see approach. Wait and see approach for the next couple months here, Hutz.
But I also have that mindset. I'm with Doug on that. Like, it's so hard to get talented guys, right? Like, and how many times do we look at like first round picks or studs that you're like, oh, this guy's going to be awesome, and they don't amount to anything? It's the predictability of what stars are going to do. There's not many sure things that come along in the draft. So if you got a guy, it's hard not to pay him. So it'll be interesting to see. But again, we're going to judge him by playoff time.
I was thinking last night just watching hockey. So hypothetically, if you don't bring back Tavares, you don't bring back Marner, you go after Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, Nikolai Ehlers. Like, there's not many big names out there. And that's concerning, right?
Yeah,
and that's what I think they're going to. Oh, it was a Marner slobber, not a, what did I say?
Marner muncher. Something.
Gobbler. It's a Marner slobber.
Yeah, gobbler. Yeah. Whatever the term was, it was same idea, just a different use.
I think Zach left. I haven't seen him. Right? Maybe he's crying. I don't know. People get emotional about this shit, the Marner stuff, man. Like, you find the right person, they get emotional about it.
I like that though. But again, rightfully so. There's a lot on the line. And I think that being said, like, it just goes to show you what Leafs fans have been through though, too, right? Like, we give other team breaks, right? I know we talk about Florida being a little bit out of it, but man, this team needs to do something in the playoffs. Just God forbid, do something.
Zach just told Lanny to get the cum out of his eyes.
There we go. This chat is getting aggressive today. There we go, Zach.
Zach is in one. You could tell Zach woke up today and he's like, this is the biggest game of my Leafs fandom. We need to beat the Florida Panthers. And
he's going to be hot tonight on Leafs After Dark then.
Everyone he is. Dave Pagnotta's on.
Well, I look forward to zooming in on that, listening to him go nuts.
Like, Zach was tweeting, like, getting aggressive with the media members for doing their job and talking about how many guys well-attended morning skate. Like, Zach is in it today. He's in it today. Breaking news coming in. Pardon me?
Go on. It's the buildup of the game, baby.
Yeah, I guess so. This is like what, game 75? Got another one in Florida next week. Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner, every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use code NATION. That's NATION, NATION, to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Simple bet for me today. Austin Matthews, anytime goal. If he wants to be the captain, he wants to be a star player, wants to get paid as such, you got to show up against some of the best teams. So I'm going to play the Matthews ATG tonight.
I like that. I like it a lot. And again, I would take the saves over on Stolarz. I think they're going to start early and well, but I like Matthew Nyes tonight to find the back of the net. I think this is a game where we really measure his status and the way he plays going to hard areas. So I look for Matthew Nyes to find the back of the net too, Nicky.
I like it. Big one, Huts. Great job today. Going to look forward to this one tonight. Full recap coming up tomorrow. Jay Rosehill back in the mix, and Noodles McLennan, Jamie McLennan's expected to drop by the show tomorrow. Curious to get his thoughts, but very, very exciting time of year with the playoffs just around the corner, man.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome time. And, again, this is going to be a good one. I look forward to this one. So much energy, so much storylines, and hopefully they show up at home because this is going to be a big one, I think, to set the tone down the stretch here.
And again, don't forget, Zach Phillips, the Leafs Nation After Dark coming up tonight with guest Dave Pagnotta, who's going to be down at Scotiabank Arena covering this game. So stay tuned for that, directly following Leafs and Panthers. By the way, a 7:42 puck drop is a text I just got. The game 7:30, but it's a 7:42 puck drop. So this is going to be a late one for you in Thunder Bay, Huts.
Yeah, that's a tough one. These are usually the ones you schedule me on Zach's show, so I have to stay up super late. So I'll be trying to keep my eyes open. I might have to have a couple beers tonight. Enjoy this one.
Maybe we'll switch it so we can get you on the show to get you all pissed off and
enjoy Zach. Me and him just go nuts on the show. He's mad about the Leafs. I'm mad I have to stay up late.
Zach may crumble if the Leafs lose this game tonight.
Oh, I can't wait. I might get in the chat there and just start stirring the pot no matter what happens.
He gets aggressive. He does the smelling salt stuff, and he gets fired up, man. I've been to the running of the Bulls in Pamplona. Like, that's the feel I get. Like, I'm back in Spain watching Bulls fucking try to go after. I forget what he's called again. The Conquistador or whatever. The guy
yeah, the red thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Dude, I've never seen something like that in my life, man. And
that's insane. Those people are crazy. The ones,
dude, it's BYOB. Like, I was in Pamplona. I don't know why the fuck I was there for a bachelor party years ago, like 5-6 years ago. We strolled down to Pamplona via bus, hungover from Barcelona. What a decision that was. But we go to like this exhibition, and I didn't realize those are the same bulls that take part in running of the bulls. So they end up dying, full disclosure, at the end of the act. I don't even know if it's an act, but it's like BYOB. You bring a case of beer into this massive like gladiator type stadium, and you just watch this unfold. It's crazy, actually.
Yeah, that is actually very, very wild. What a weird cultural event. And the running of the bulls always makes me, I hate that. Like when my Twitter X algorithm gets on like stuff like that, like oh my goodness, I hate seeing people get hurt. That is not for me. I would not enjoy that at all.
I had aspirations of actually taking part in the running of the bulls. Then I found out it happens at 6 a.m. and I'm like, not a chance.
You would do that? That's nuts, man. There's
well,
no
dude,
chance.
we bought everything. You have to wear all white too. We bought everything. And then I found out it was at 6 a.m. I'm like, there's not a chance when I go to bed at 3 a.m. that I'm going to be up at 6 to run around with bulls. Like it just,
you got to be agile.
Like
you want to be at your best. You know what I mean? You weren't TANF rested come playoff time for that.
Oh man, I want to be load managed for that, man. You make one bad move. You can hide, by the way, too. Like I've seen the course setup, but man, that can get you in trouble in a big way. Huts, excellent job at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget as well to check out the LeafsNation.com. Thank you to Doug MacLean. Again, Jay Rosehill back in the mix tomorrow. Thank you to producer Vic. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the game. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.